Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Joe Kendrick. Everybody start calling me Papa Joe. And I've been asked to participate in this fall festival by giving you some background information on my life and how I got everything started. But before I get into that, I want to really thank all of our clients who always become our friends for the years of loyalty you have showed us by giving us the privilege of taking care of your pets. I really thank you. This has been going on since 1979, and people who have been coming here almost 40 years, some are still coming here, and I'm so thankful to you, first of all. But when they asked me to do this, I also mentioned that you have to be careful about putting the microphone in front of Papa Joe, because I have a tendency to get lost in the exuberance of my own verbosity. And my wife used to say, talking too much. So a lot of times when I would do public speaking, I would ask my wife to sit in the audience on the front row, and she had a little bell. And every time I would tend to talk too long or too much or too fast, she'd ring that bell, and I knew that I had to hurry up. But she's not here anymore, so I think that I can time myself and get out of this pretty good. Now, the first thing is, I was born and raised in Central Florida in a little town called Sanford. It's about 40 miles from Daytona Beach, 20 miles from Orlando, and it was mostly known for raising cabbage. I was born and raised on a farm. My daddy was a sharecropper. There were 10 of us, 5 boys, 5 girls, all still alive, and the baby is 72. Now, what is a sharecropper? For those of you who do not know, a sharecropper is a person who works for somebody else. He does all the work, and you get to share only a place to live with just enough money to buy food to eat. But I thought we were rich. And so everybody said, well, how did you think we were rich? We had no plumbing, no electricity, but I thought we were rich because, number one, we had a key ingredient to any family. We had a loving mother and father in our home who weren't afraid to tell us they loved us and always wanted us to do better for ourselves. And we also had 2 pairs of shoes. The one pair that you would wear to church, and the other pair that you had to wear to school. And when you got home from school, you had to pull them off, and everybody went barefoot. But I thought that we did a good job of being raised in a family where we had a mother and a father. Now, how did I get to Knoxville? In 1959, when we were graduating from high school, this gentleman came down, Dr. Ralph Martin, and offered a bunch of us scholarships to come to Knoxville College. I had never been out of the state of Florida. I had never seen a snowflake. I'd never seen a mountain, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But because we were so poor, the idea that we were going to get money to go to school was just a pleasant thing to me, so we decided to try it out. Now, while I was at Knoxville College, several enthusiastic and great things happened for me. Number one, I was able to get a BS degree, majored in biology and minored in chemistry, and all during the time when I was going to college at Knoxville College, I was able to work at Oak Ridge National Laboratories as a summer student. Another significant thing that happened to me at Knoxville College, I met and married my wife, Gloria. Now, Gloria is no longer with us. She died 3 weeks after we had our 50th wedding anniversary. And Reverend Reese was the one who married us the first time on Knoxville College campuses, and 50 years later married us a second time on our golden anniversary. He made the comment that he had married many people 2 times before, but never to the same people. So I'm just thankful that Reverend Reese is still alive at age 96 and always been a good family friend. Now, while I was working at Knoxville College, it paved the way for me once I graduated to get a full-time job working at Oak Ridge National Laboratories, which I will call ORNL from this point on. But I was working as a technician in biochemistry. And it's one of those kind of things where we were doing all kind of experiments that had to do with how radiation affected animals in our environment. Now, after working there for about 7 years, I have often asked the question, Dr. Joe, what made you decide to go to vet school? Well, one day I had an epiphany moment. We were doing an experiment in the laboratory, and I was trying to explain it to one of these postdocs who had got a degree from Harvard or Yale or some fancy place, and he was having a little difficulty understanding the experiment that I was doing. Then a light went up in my head. I said, you know what? This guy is no smarter than me, And here I am, training him. He's going to go off and do all these wonderful things in the world. And old Sergeant Joe is going to be here to train the next group. I know you've heard of the word epiphany, but I had a eureka moment. I said, he is no smarter than me. The only difference is he's better educated. And I knew at that moment that Papa Joe needed to find something better that he was going to do with his life so he could be rewarded for the way he works, which is hard all the time. I thought about human medicine. I was 28 years old at the time. I did some quick math and decided, I'll be almost 38 years old before I can really work to make a living to take care of my family. Then I thought about dentistry. No offense to my dental friends in the audience, but I did not think I wanted to look at people's mouths all day for the next 30 or 40 years. So finally I said, what about veterinary medicine? To my surprise, many of my supervisors were DVMs and PhDs, DVMs and MDs. I had no idea of the wide range of things that a person with a doctor of veterinary medicine degree could do. So I decided at that moment that I was going to apply to go to vet school at Tuskegee. I got accepted. And after 4 years at Tuskegee, I got my DVM degree. Now, one of the things I was planning to do at that time, I had gotten an internship to go to Colorado State University, and I was going to get real good at internal medicine and go out and practice. But what had happened is the guy that I used to work for as a technician had been promoted, so he was over a big laboratory called inhalation carcinogenesis. And what that laboratory was doing was trying to study cigarette smoke and prove emphatically that it causes lung cancer. But when my former boss would call me, offer me the job to come back, I hesitated. I had no intention of coming back to Knoxville, Tennessee. So when he saw that he could not recruit me, he started calling my wife, Gloria. And so I think what happened was Gloria never wanted to go to Colorado in the first place because she was afraid of that cold weather. She didn't like cold weather. She said, Joe, you ought to at least go back to Knoxville for the interview. So when I came back to Knoxville for the interview at ORENL, I decided that while I'm here on their dime, I'm going to interview with some of these local practitioners. The lesson that I learned from that I'd like to pass along to everybody is always have more than one ace in the hole. Don't let your life be dependent on one thing or one factor. So I took the job working at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and I worked continuously part-time working for local practitioners. It's one of those kind of things that as I was working in this laboratory, it dawned on me that we were not going to prove emphatically in a quantitative manner that cigarette smoke causes lung cancer, even though we know that it does, okay? And so after 2 years working there, publishing a few significant and some insignificant papers, I decided that I was going to leave and go into practice with Dr. Crawford, who had been working for on a part-time basis. One of the things about it is, after working for Dr. Crawford for about 5 years, I decided that, you know what, it is time for me to go solo and practice for myself. I am so accustomed to being the person who can make the decisions, whether good or bad, and I knew it was time for me to do that. In 1979, my wife Gloria and I decided to establish the Asheville Highway Animal Clinic in the present location. Both my sons, Dr. Brian Kendrick, who is deceased, he was killed in a motorcycle accident about 60 years ago, and my younger son, Ricardo, both became DVMs. Brian's wife, Dr. Rachel Kendrick, also a doctor of veterinary medicine, is currently working for us. Melba Kendrick, who is Ricky's wife, is our office manager. And when my wife, Gloria, was alive, she worked in the hospital also. Someone used to say, Gloria, what do you do? She said, I'm the gopher. And I said, what's a gopher? Mama go for this and go for that. And everybody would get a smile out of that, because that's what Gloria did. Now, in about 2007, we tore down the old clinic and we moved in a trailer. And my daughter-in-law, Rachel, doesn't like to call it a trailer. She called it a modular facility, but it was really a trailer. We moved the trailer in and we practiced out of that trailer in an adjacent office building for the entire time the new clinic was being established. And so there's some significant things happened once we got this new practice up. We had applied for one of the honors that new facilities get, and we won national recognition for the design of our hospital, and it was published in our Veterinary Economic Journal. I was so happy about it. I'll be perfectly frank about it. I'm an emotional guy. And because my son, Brian, who, along with Ricky, wanted us to produce this clinic, Brian never lived to see it. But I promised that we were going to get this hospital done, and we did. And I got emotional. I went in the office and closed the door and cried like a baby out of happiness that we got it done, even though Brian did live to see it. Some of you, when you come to visit the clinic, please look on the front side of the building, and you will see a heart-shaped plant that we put there in honor of Brian. And he had a motto that says, "I live my life with no regrets." And I'm so proud of him, even though he never got to see this particular hospital get finished. Now, all of you who have been here before know that our aim always is to give Class C service for our class pets at a reasonable price, and I hope that's one of the reasons we continue to do this long after I am gone. So now, what is Papa Joe doing now? First thing, let me tell you about this Papa Joe stuff, okay? I think both my daughters-in-law were trying to figure out what to call me, and they didn't want to call me Daddy, so I think Rachel and Melba got together and they decided Papa Joe. Now everybody in Knoxville called me Papa Joe. I seem to be everybody's daddy. Everywhere I go, I become Papa Joe. And I kind of like it because I'm always giving advice to everybody whether you ask for it or not. So I think I've earned this moniker of being Papa Joe. So what's Papa Joe doing today? I'm semi-retired. I still work 1 or 2 days a week at the hospital. I don't think that I'm ever going to totally retire because I still have enough energy and I still, it keeps my mind sharp. Even though I do get a little forgetful every now and then, but I got nice employees around me who remind me of things, and I appreciate that very much. My main thing I'm doing in my part-time now, we started a prison ministry about 6 years ago. It's called Knoxville Community Step Up. And the purpose of this ministry is to stop the recidivism or the recycling of our people in the jails and prisons. And one of the other things that we're doing now is I'm working with the Urban League as one of the lecturers and one of the judges when they have a contest to talk about the different jobs they hope to start on their own. So we're teaching young people how to end up being entrepreneurs and how to start a business and how to make sure that it works correctly. The other thing I'm doing is teaching kids. I have a course called The A's Habit, a course for rapidly improving grades. My wife and I developed this program almost 40 years ago. And it's designed not to make kids smarter because I can't change your IQ, but we can show you how to be organized and studying, and your grades are going to improve simply because you know how to organize and approach the studying. And we're still doing that project. One of the things I also like to do is take my grandkids and any other else children who want to go is fish trips. We go fishing quite a bit now, especially with my grandson Noah. He loves to fish. And it's one of those kind of things that I try to do as often as I can because it's a fun thing for children to learn how to do. And it's a fun thing for me to get them out there and show them because deep down inside, even though I made my living being a veterinarian, I've always been a frustrated wannabe school teacher. Okay? So now one of the things that I'm trying to do, I'm active in my church. I have an old house located behind the clinic called the White House. And I'm busy restoring it and enjoying every minute of it, doing a lot of the work ourselves. Now, before we close this thing, I don't have anybody here to ring the bell and tell me it's time to stop. So I kind of got a self-timer that I'm going to use since Gloria isn't here any longer. And I think it's time for me to tell you about something else important. Enrique, who has helped to organize this fall festival event, which is going to be virtual and on Facebook, I understand, is going to print up for you some of what I call Papa Joe-isms. These are things that I live my life by. And each time I give a public presentation, I always leave a copy of my Papa Joe-isms. They're things that I've learned that make me live my life better, make me feel complete, and I'm hoping that he's going to put them on Facebook in some way whereby you can download them and you can actually see whether or not you can use them to live your life better. And as a matter of fact, share them with other people. Add some of your own isms to it, because as we go forward in this life, during our trying times, we have got to have things that we believe in. And one of the things that motivates me every day, that thanks to my spiritualism, I have been able to read deep down inside of my heart so I can reach things that I'm not consciously aware of that helps me to be a better person today than I was yesterday, but not as good as I'll be tomorrow. Thank you.